Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. RIP Roberto Clemente. We happen to be on the anniversary of that fateful day. And Jim Stamm, hello, man. Welcome back to the show. We haven't talked in a couple weeks. Hope you had a great Christmas, ready for New Year's.
I am, and happy New Year's Eve to you and to anybody that's joining us tonight. And if you catch us later in the week, then Happy New Year's. So I think I got everybody covered there with that one. So
yeah, man, it's a celebratory day, and I think this show is going to be a little bit more celebratory than we've been in recent months, right? I mean, the Pirates have done some stuff here, Jim, and we're going to talk about all the individual moves that took place since you and I have last talked. Obviously, I've been rattling my mouth about it for weeks,
I get more of a break than you do, Gary.
You do. So at least you have some fresh looks on stuff, which is why it's so cool to still do this show. But overall, I'm not saying they have to be done. We don't have to pretend that. But right now, would you say like this is about as satisfied as you've been with what they've tried to do in the offseason in a decade?
I mean, without a doubt, right? Just
that doesn't
today,
excuse it and make it like, oh, we should be grateful for what we get. That's not what I'm trying to get at, as much as just this is much different. I mean, it's
there's two ways to look at it. I think is like just what you said, which is past easily 5 years, the last 10 years, it's the most they've tried to do. Now you put it up against should they be done, then that's different. You'd like to see another move be made, maybe two. But yeah, certainly. I mean, it's like I texted you earlier today. If nothing else, it's just nice to be able to have some positive things to talk about in an off season. We haven't had very much of that.
I certainly think that there's room to make a few more moves. I think they want to make a few more moves. So I don't think we're out of school to be asking that or hoping for that. But I do think if I read you off what they've done this offseason before, we even got started on this journey, and I told you this is what the Pirates are going to get done here to address this team. I think, first of all, most people would probably tell me they're not going to do all that stuff, Gary. That's crazy. And second, I think you'd probably go, I'm pretty satisfied with that. I think you really would. Well, now that they've done it and it's like Christmas time, New Year's time, there's a lot more time. So we're a lot less satisfied than we would be if this is just kind of the result of what the offseason brought.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if we were sitting here still waiting, angst would be a little bit higher. But these are two very, and I say two because I'm talking on the offensive side of things, right? Like, okay, great, we got Soto. So be it. But the two main pieces here, and there are others involved, they're playing in the sandbox that I think we expected them to play in as far as the type of guys that they could get.
When you talk about shopping in a different aisle, this is what it is.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see some of the moves they've made, Jim. I mean, I guess like at the beginning of the off season, it's not as though anybody identified second base as this big pain point. But almost everything they've addressed has, in some way, shape, or form, been designed to touch second base, right? And all the guys they're rumored to be interested in, big trades they were talking about pulling off. In reality, doesn't it feel like maybe they were just, we got to get a few bats, and it doesn't really matter where they are. It's going to be an upgrade. We'll make it into an upgrade. We'll make it work.
Yeah, I think if you're in the Pirates' position, and quite frankly, I've thought this for a while, which is you don't pick and choose where you can upgrade at. You know what I mean? Like if there's a chance to upgrade somewhere, you do it whether you feel like you're really in good shape there or not. I think And plus there are enough options with these guys to find places for them. So I think it's 100% the right way to do it, which is, okay, wasn't the most glaring need, but you need to improve. You can't just sit there and be picky about how you do it.
There's some concern, like, are you giving up on Gonzalez too early or whatever? And I can see that. I understand that. I mean, we've come up watching these prospects, and at some point you kind of expect the prospects to start to deliver, right? And right when you're to the point where you really think Nick Gonzalez should take that next step, all of a sudden here we're pushing him out of the lineup, right? And I can think of a few ways that shouldn't be a concern. But before I do, is that something you're concerned about?
It's not, and I'll tell you why. For me, we don't have time to sort it out and hope. I think that's been a big point of contention with me, at least, which is you have to have backup plans for everything, or at least as many of you as you can. And okay, you still hope that Nick Gonzalez can get something done. Great. That doesn't mean you don't make a move to insure yourself, some insurance against that. And this is
Right.
more than insurance.
I mean, that's exactly how I see it too. But I do understand like why people feel the way they do. Like, how are we going to get at bats for Rafael Flores? Like that was a guy that I think a lot of us probably had penciled into this roster. And now, quite frankly, I don't see a spot for him unless he beats Joey Bart, and the outfield. When we traded for Garcia, it seemed like a sure thing he'd be in the mix, if not starting, like that. But now you need to get Ryan O'Hearn. He can play corner outfield. You got Mangum. I think he's going to play a lot. I just don't know that I think that's the case anymore. I think he could easily start in AAA. In fact, I think they'd probably like to bring in another.
Yeah, just having some options is nice. Mangum really interests me for the fact of nothing about him is prototypical nowadays, right? There will be some fans that hate him before he ever takes an at bat because of what he does and how, what he brings to the table anymore. But I would love to see, I'm going off a little bit on the side here. I would love to see from Mangum be like the Josh Harrison guy of this team, which is a lot of energy, stealing bases, playing good defense, doing all the little things that make you a valuable ball player. I think this team could use something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw. I had an opportunity to actually interview him a week or so ago, and yeah, I mean, he sounds like he thinks that there's more there, power wise too. He intentionally came up at 29 and put in his head, I got to show these people I can hit, and I got to show them I can hit from minute one, and I'm not going to waste opportunities on walks or anything trying to hit home runs. I'm gonna hit.
We've
That's
talked
all he
about
did.
we've talked about that when guys get their little shot, you got to make something happen, right? Like or next thing you know, it's a month later and they've seen a little bit of you and it hasn't gone well, and then they're off on the next person.
Yeah.
So I
So I
totally
think
get
you're
that.
right. He's not the prototypical player. You're totally right. But I think first, this is a team that struck out more than anybody last year. I think they really need more guys in there like that. He and O'Hearn both kind of fill that role, I think, of guys that just don't strike out a lot, and that's important to have in a lineup, to not have those dead zones where those strikeout artists can just come in and carve up your lineup for 14, 15 strikeouts in a game. That looks ugly, and the offense never gets anything going.
I think the game's starting to come back around a little bit to that, Gary. We've seen some of the playoff teams be better at it, whether it's Toronto, whether it's Milwaukee. It's swinging back that way. It may never get to where it was, but sure, absolutely. These guys, you put the ball in play. Isn't that important? Shouldn't that still be important nowadays?
Yeah. Plus, I think they really needed a good insurance policy for Jack Sawinski, better than Jack Sawinski out there in center field. It never made sense having him being the primary backup center fielder to O'Neal Cruz, because how are you really going to do rest days when they're both lefties? They both have many of the same issues. There aren't too many days where you want to get Cruz off his feet where Jack's a better alternative. I think they've set his contract up to have him DFA'd and sent to the minors because they're paying him too much to just clear, get picked up, I would think, someplace. I'm not worried about him, but Garcia probably lost an opportunity at a gig, I would think. You're not going to want him to sit around, and it just feels like the setup right now tells me he's going to sit around.
Very well could. But again, these at least they're not hoping and praying that Jack Sawinski can do something when the season rolls around, right? So again, you're giving yourself options and backups. And if Garcia, Connor Griffin, those guys need to spend a little bit of time to get their feet wet before they're brought up, that's fine too.
Word, man. Hey, let's take that quick first break, and when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about Rafael Flores. I brought him up in segment 1. Segment 2, I want to kind of give you a different angle on it to talk about.
Interesting. Let's go.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Jim, Rafael Flores was brought in for David Bednar. Obviously, there was more involved in the trade, but those were the two principal pieces. And I think we can also kind of mention this in the same light as Garcia coming back for Johan Oviedo, primarily. Those two pieces in particular were moved out. Guys that really, I think, could help right now. This team probably needs to bring in a veteran starter now because they've moved a couple of depth pieces. I think it's important to probably get somebody now. And Flores probably isn't going to work here, right? Like, it's not going to happen unless he beats Joey Bart. So that's maybe help for next year or later this year. So is Garcia. You moved out two pieces that I think could really help this team right this second. Is that the right move in the midst of what they're trying to get done? Because Bednar would look great in the back end of this bullpen. Now, I don't want to have revisionist history. I liked the move. But hindsight is always 2020. We've seen what we've seen now.
I mean, it's a valid question. I look at Bart and I look at Davis. Both have had some injury problems, some injury issues. Always seems to be something with Bart here and there. And then Henry's gone through it, as we all already know, in the minors. And then he's had a little bit of concussion stuff. So, like, again, I look at it as that's somebody, and Gary, you'd have to tell me with Flores catching wise, I have not seen enough of that. But just having someone that can come in and step in case one of those guys gets hurt, I don't think that's a bad thing either. What's Flores look like as a catcher, like purely as a catcher?
He clearly didn't scare them as much as Henry did when he got called up because they let him do it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen anything glaring, but he also didn't do it enough up here, to have any kind of numbers to tell you how he's doing.
Sure.
I think in some ways, framing's still going to be a thing next year, even with the challenge system, but it's not going to be as important of a thing. You're not going to lose any egregious things. You know what I mean? Like, most of that stuff, I think, will get cleaned up with this system. So I don't know that you're losing a whole lot in the framing department. For me, Bart was more, he just doesn't throw out runners. His pop time stinks.
Yeah, right.
I don't think he calls a great game. I don't feel like he gets into the flow of the at bats the way Henry does, and the way he's able to call the games to me is just much more effective. Not to mention, this team is intellectually captured here. They have to use Henry. Like you can't swing and miss on a 1-1. You just can't, and you certainly can't do it when you haven't given it the full on effort that this year is going to require. Backup plan would be Flores. I think that's if Henry doesn't work out and they're like, listen, the bat's never going to happen. We've got to get some offense here. Flores is where it's coming from. That's the next step. That's the next guy to try, right?
Yeah, and to your point about Henry is like he's the one where I do think it's time to just let him go and see if it's there. It sucks to have to do this in what's such a pivotal year, but hopefully he can, find a little bit. I
think we can live with a couple cool spots in a lineup that's much better built. That's another thing we have to think about. They haven't filled the third base position yet. There's all this chatter about Okamoto. I've covered it about as much as I want to. They're in it deeply.
Right.
It's possible, but Pittsburgh's just flat out not an attractive place for Japanese players. If they get them, it would be a surprise to me. But if they don't, and you end up having to start like Triolo or Gonzalez at third, because again, we don't want to give up on all these players. They've got to have futures too, right? Lau's only here for a year, so you can't just completely forego everything that you had working just because you're pushing them back a little bit. If third base has to be Triolo or Gonzalez, I think we'll live with that as a cool spot in the lineup, considering everything else they did. Don't you? And that's if Triolo stinks. Maybe he is what he did in the second half.
I was just sitting here thinking about Triolo and Gonzalez. Could you cobble enough together there collectively? That would be my question. Obviously Triolo has a lot of positional flexibility to play elsewhere. But if that's where they were truly both going to get a majority of their playing time, it's a good question. And even if it doesn't work out with Okamoto, God, I don't know why I struggle so much with that. They can pivot there a little bit too, can they not? Or at least there's still some options.
They could. I mean, I think the Eugenio Suarez thing just isn't there. I just don't think there's interest on either part, really. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen one thing linking those two.
I hear people talk about it as a logical thing, but I just don't think that they think what he wants is all that logical. That's just all there is to it. We got a question here about who's the shortstop until Griffin arrives. The door's open for Griffin to have arrived. And I can't put that any more plainly. There is no shortstop holding him back. If he's good enough, he's good enough. If he's not, it'll be Jared Triolo, Nick Gonzalez, some combination thereof.
Yeah.
I doubt they're going to go out and bring anybody else in for shortstop. If they couldn't get a third baseman and they still wanted to spend some money, I don't think there's a real good mid-range shortstop out there.
That's what I was just thinking, is if there was anybody out there just even completely defensive minded at shortstop that you could go bring in, let Triolo, and this is if nothing else happens and Griffin's not going to be there day one, that they could bring in to just, whether they hit or not, and then have the Triolo Gonzalez thing at third.
You lost me with the defense only. That's Triolo already. I don't need that.
That's true.
Like if it was bat only and you're going to, suffer a little defensively, I guess I'd understand what you're saying. But I think I think you could do worse than having Jared Triolo and Nick Gonzalez have to man one of those positions to open the season. I think that's probably what's going to happen. And it'd be great if it wasn't both of those positions, because then I think you have to involve Nick York in one position he can't play.
Sure.
And we're hoping he can play third. And I don't know how quickly the alternatives kind of turn down from there.
Yeah. The one thing I do think about all this is I'm curious to see how defensively this is all going to work out. I know that those are first world problems for many teams, but if you're going with Lau, let's say it has to be Lau, Triolo, Gonzalez, can you feel okay enough about that? I know that Lau's got some question marks at this point. Triolo can play short. There's no doubt in my mind. We've seen him do it. I'm just curious if the defense are we giving up too much there with the way this team's going to be built? Offensively is what I'm saying, is like sacrificing some defense for offense.
I don't think so. It's not like Tampa wasn't built on pitching, and they played him at second base all the time. We fall in love with these defensive metrics, and then we start acting like they're unplayable because of what we're reading on the back of their baseball cards. We're doing the same thing with Brian Reynolds. There are people that scream up and down that he needs to be a DH right now. I'm sorry, you're blind. He is going to eventually need to be a DH, but he's a very serviceable outfielder. I mean, it's not like he's missing a ball a night or something. We're talking like every month, if there's 2 balls that fall that he should get to, that's probably about right.
Yeah, look,
and the
I don't
arm's
place...
fine. But I'm saying we do this with all these players. Lau's fine too. He is. O'Hearn is probably a decent corner outfielder. He really is. First base, he's probably okay, but I think they'll use him at DH most. They've got Mangum's a terrific defender. Garcia's a terrific defender.
That's true.
Cruz, what are you gonna do? You gotta see. I mean, the other alternative they could do if they really, let's say Cruz sucks defensively, because I understand your concern. We could shore it up this way. You could go Reynolds in left, O'Hearn in right, Mangum in center, Cruz is the DH. If it gets to that point. But I think you got to give him every opportunity to, play center field. He's a much better player if you can play him in the field.
Yeah. It's just, when I think about that up the middle defense, how strong can you be and how much can you give up in that regard? Cruz to me is really important this year too, obviously, on both sides of things. He has to be able to stabilize some of that up the middle defense that they have.
If he can't, then I think at least we can say realistically they have alternatives now. They have ways they can go about it. I think that's kind of one thing that they've done. They've brought in a lot of versatility. You can use Lau in a lot of different ways too. He can be at second base, which I do believe is their primary plan. He can be the DH. If Nick Gonzalez, say in his time holding down shortstop, is killing it with the bat, and you still want to keep it in the lineup, well, change your mind. O'Hearn becomes a permanent outfielder. Lau becomes a permanent DH, and move Gonzalez back to second base. These things could happen all season long as they play with this combination of players. I love how many different ways they could deploy them.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too, is like, as long as you're giving yourself some options to be able to move guys around, that to me is the biggest thing here. Is before you were hoping that they were really trying to fit first of all, guys that couldn't really hit, and they're asking them to play other positions as well. They're certainly in a better spot than they were in that regard.
Let's say, too, one thing you and I have said a billion times now. Brian Reynolds is a good player on a good team. And if you are looking to him to be your best player, you probably don't have a good team. I think we have finally arrived at the testing grounds to see if our thesis is correct this year. He's going to be surrounded by other players. He's going to have protection in the lineup. He's going to be providing protection in the lineup. And O'Neal Cruz isn't going to be able to be game planned the way he has been. I mean, he's been the dude that could hurt you in this lineup. That's not a healthy place to be for a guy that's already having swing decision issues. So I think I expect a step forward from a lot of guys just from having pressure taken off of them and more opportunity because they've got better on base guys.
Well, and hopefully having guys hit in the lineup where they probably should be hitting. You know, you can tell a guy, oh, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. All of a sudden you're batting a guy cleanup that probably should be batting second or seventh. I think you do feel a little bit of pressure to be a cleanup hitter, right? You're in that spot to drive in runs. So I think getting some of that to having guys in spots where they can be the most successful is also really going to help.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, I just like the options, man, everywhere. I really do. I think you got to leave a little bit of room for improvement. You know, you got to expect some of the things that we were talking about before they got any of these people. Yeah, some of it was wishful thinking, but you expected Spencer Horwitz to do a little bit more next year. I expect a little bit more power out of him. I expect him to continue to hit lefties the way he started to show he could. And I expect this team to give him an opportunity to.
I would agree with you there. I think out of everybody, he's one of the guys I'm worried about the least. I think if you give him a full season and he's healthy, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised with what his final numbers are when the year is over.
Yeah. I would say against lefties, don't be surprised if Ryan O'Hearn is the platoon for Horwitz if they decide he ultimately needs one, because he hits lefties rather well as well. You might see like a situation where he stays in the lineup, plays first base instead of DH, and that's how they work Kutchin. You know, and then you've got if they sign him, which is another discussion. But I think there's a lot of ways that you can use a lot of these players. I really do. And I'm excited about it. And I think that it's deeper than it's been. And yeah, there's a couple more holes I'd like them to fill, Jim, but I don't know that I consider them like make or break as to whether I think this team's done enough to challenge in this division. I think I'm just about there.
They're in better shape for sure. Martin brings up a good question. Any concern with the starting pitching? I think there's always concern with starting pitching. You know, wouldn't take but a couple injuries, right? I mean, and that's for anybody. So you mentioned the fact that earlier that I think they still need to go out and get a back end guy that can eat some innings. Certainly, Gary, let's say third base doesn't work out. They miss on Okamoto, and this is it. This is what they do. Is there anywhere else you can look where you would try to strengthen this team? Would it be the bullpen? Would you still look for? Would you try to go something more along the lines of a better guy starting, other than just a simple back end innings eater?
I mean,
Anywhere you would look.
I would look at another starter. They already said they want to. I think you're probably looking at what they've done. It's going to be a 1-year lefty type, like a Quintana. I wouldn't be surprised by. Tyler Anderson. I wouldn't be surprised by a reunion tour with either of those guys. Something along those lines, I think, is what you'll see. And it'll be just to eat innings. That's it. And as far as the bullpen goes, well, I've thought all along they should go out and get a real closer. I like Dennis Santana. I'm fine with him being in the role, but I wouldn't mind getting somebody else that's done it. Gregory Soto helps with that a little bit because he is somebody that's done it. I'd like somebody that's had a little more success recently.
Right.
It'd be nice. That's probably a big ask money-wise, and they have some guys that I think could move into that. Carmen Majinski interests me as a closer option. I think he can ramp it up a lot if you're giving him one inning. He's also very valuable in his current role as a swingman and, being able to give you some length. Not all these starters are going to be able to start. I think Ashcraft probably cracks this lineup now with Burrows being gone. But somebody's not gonna. If Barco doesn't make it, do you use him in the bullpen? That might be a very effective arm in the bullpen. There's a lot of guys like that I want to consider too. Antoine Kelly. Just added him to the 40-man. Is he really going to make it as a starter?
Yeah, I do think, Martin, it's a valid question, only simply because there's a lot of innings to cover all the time. And you've got some young arms, and you've traded away a couple of those pieces, which I'm fine with doing, by the way. I think I wish Burrows and Oviedo the best of luck, but I think you had to do it. And then, God forbid, or God willing, they somehow would be in the mix for a postseason spot, then you've got more innings to cover. Martin, I think there's always concern with starting pitching. We've always said you can never have enough. I guess I wouldn't stop now saying that.
I would think I would get somebody specifically geared towards eating innings. I hear what you're saying. It's like if you miss third base, go ahead and allocate those dollars and get somebody bigger or whatever. That's fine too. If they wanted to go that route, I'd be fine with it. I just think at some point it's going to be unnecessary. The only reason I would do that is if I knew that while I refrained from trading Mitch Keller this year, I'm definitely doing it next year. Then I would go ahead and do that with the eye towards I'm not going to be paying both of these guys forever, so who cares? I'll just get this one done and trade Keller next year. Or maybe this guy if I'd rather move him and he looks more valuable to somebody. Just gives you a few more options of something you can move for another youngster to come up and be ready.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see some of these young guys. What kind of leaps do they make this year, right? When you mentioned Ashcraft and you mentioned, who am I forgetting here?
Bubba, Barco.
Yeah, the Barco. Bubba, it's funny. I don't want to count on him, but I really do expect him to.
I don't know how you couldn't now.
Yeah.
Like now that you've taken Burrows and Oviedo out of the mix, I just feel like there's no scenario in which he isn't one of the most ready 5 that you have.
Sure.
Unless you bring in 2. I think you'd have to bring in a couple to get him knocked out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you saw enough from him last year to just say, okay, I think that next step is coming for him, or at least be able to maintain some of what he did at some of his better starts.
Right.
And then, the fact of, I kind of like Jared Jones being lost in the mix right now. Like not forgetting about him, but just later in the year, whenever that happens, someone that you can add that's going to hopefully, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him, but just another option as you get deeper into the season.
Yeah, and he could be physically ready at the beginning of the season to pitch. And something interesting to consider there is, would they consider, because he's going to be on an innings count this year, using him as the closer?
Or some type of back end role.
Yeah, I mean, Ashcraft, you figure, is going to be able to give you 150 this year. That'll be their target, somewhere in there. That's pretty good if he can actually do it. Jones, you got to figure he'll be somewhere in the 75 to 80 range, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was thinking if they got anything over 80, it would be.
And I'm talking total trip, like even the recovery in minor leagues and everything. I don't mean in the majors. So I think you're talking about a guy that's going to be severely limited this year. Well, let's bring him back slowly. Let's bring him back as a bullpen arm this year. You know, I think that'd be a great way to use his talents. If you could, you'd be completely forgoing keeping him on a starter schedule this year, but so be it.
I'm wondering how they, it's funny with a guy like him because I wonder how you sell that to players. I think in the short term you could, certainly, about the innings limitations and helping him get back to where he wants to be after this coming season. But, certain pitchers feel they are starting pitchers. Certain pitchers feel they're relievers. And then there's the financial aspect to that, right? On how that looks long term. You want to be paid as a wide receiver, right? Not as a tight end, right?
I also kind of don't want to forget how Jared Jones' season ended before he got hurt. He had kind of been sussed out a little bit on a few things, so there's a little bit of at least trepidation on my part to go ahead and like pencil him back in, like he's just jumping right back into being a presumptive rookie of the year candidate, like he was for a while there that season. He was hip to hip with Paul Skeens for a minute there, as far as like,
he came out of the gate. He came out of the gate with that K to walk ratio. It was insane.
That's my fear, though, is because what started really getting killed for him was the fastball, and I don't think he lost enough velocity for it to be the sole excuse. But he also showed that the velocity was very hard for him to maintain. So we might see a pitcher that comes back a little different. We might see a pitcher that settles back in as a 97 to 98 guy and has to use his secondary stuff a little more. He might have to teach himself some new tricks. Now, you should be excited about that, I would think. Not you, Jim, but people listening. I'm used to doing shows by myself now. I mean, but it should be exciting for people, I would think, because Jared is a guy that kind of taught himself to throw 100 in an off season. He came out of relative nowhere too. Whenever he came on the scene, nobody thought he was going to start that season. So if anybody can teach themselves a new trick, it's him.
I like his bulldog mentality on the mound too. I do think it fits. I do think it fits that back end of a bullpen really nice.
Feels like it.
Huh?
Feels like it should, right?
Yeah, I mean, but again, so like I think this year's an easy sell for a player. Long term, I think like most guys, he still views himself as a starter.
Sure.
But boy, what a nice piece to have coming back at some point. And not that there wouldn't be some growing pains with it, but yeah, I just think it's nice to kind of not even have him in the conversation very much, and you can kind of pull him as reinforcements as the season goes along.
Yeah, and Thomas Harrington we haven't even mentioned.
Right.
Yeah, he had a rough go of it, I think, in his rookie season. I didn't really like necessarily how they attempted to use him either. It was an odd way that they went about it, having him break camp, get one start, go down, come back up, do something weird, actually perform well, closing out a game, then get sent back down like you did something bad. Just a whole lot of yo-yoing with a kid that coming in had more promise than a whole lot of guys in your system.
Yeah, well, he had that to that point. His track record showed that he maybe deserved more than that yo-yo stuff.
Right. So I would think like that's a guy that has probably gotten written off a little bit more than Jared Jones. I probably, if anything, see overestimations of what Jared Jones is going to provide this year. But I think they've still got a lot of pieces, man. Bidouin, we didn't even talk about for the bullpen. That could be a great piece. I mean, again, Antoine Kelly. There's another guy too. Is it Morel? It's not Morel. Can't remember his name right now. But another guy they've got too. They've got tons of options. They just added to the 40-man for the bullpen that could all be exciting and fight. And those aren't normal prospects that have to fight through years and years and years to get an opportunity.
I think I was going to say, where are you on the satisfaction level of Dennis Santana is just your closer, pure and simple, out the gate? Is he? You sleep well at night with that?
Can we take a break and let me think about it for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do that.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum. Happy New Year again, everybody. Let me see if I can answer Jim's question about Dennis Santana. Where am I on a comfort level? Honestly, I'm very comfortable with the player. I don't think he's pulling off any party tricks to do what he's doing. He's got a really good angle to the mound. He's got good extension. His stuff is real. Good control and command of his pitches. Knows what he's doing. Knows how he's attacking people. Can get the strikeout when he really wants it. I don't have a lot of questions about Dennis Santana, the player. I have a lot of questions about the depth on this team on the back end with experience. It's mostly experience. It's hard to be a playoff team without experience in your bullpen. Sometimes experience, I think, is more important than just raw skill back there. I mean, you've got to know when it's time to put the pedal down and go for that strikeout. You got to know when it's not. You got to know when it's okay to give it up. I'm just gonna walk this guy. He's seeing me too good. It's gonna be okay because I'm gonna strike out the next two.
Yeah, there's an art form to it. There's a feel to that I think you only get from experience. Or back real quick, back to Santana. Are fans just too caught up in the sense that he's not a prototypical closer?
I can't speak for everybody. I'm not, because I personally think the prototypical closer role shouldn't exist. I wouldn't do it in today's game. I think we lose out because we use analytics for every minute thing in baseball, and then we ignore good matchups so that we can make sure somebody's in a closer role. I think there's times when I'd rather have a lefty get those last 3 outs, and I'd be completely fine if that was Soto. Go get those 3 outs because we're facing 2 out of 3 lefties in the lineup here in the bottom of the 9th. So I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, or using your closer in the 8th inning if you have to, if that's
sure.
what it needs to be. I think the Pirates would be wise to start employing some of that strategy. They fell into that trap with Bednar far too often.
They did, I think. And then also Bednar, and this is true also, as I sit here and dispute that there's anything to the 9th inning. There is, clearly. Bothers people. There's some people that can't perform in the 9th inning. There's some of these closers, you notice, they can't hit if they can't pitch if they're up too many runs. If they have like a 6-run cushion or they're down 6 runs, they get lit up like a downtown Christmas tree. They need that pressure. They need that.
Or if the bases are clean, some guys don't respond well when they come in with inherited runners, things of that nature.
So there's all kinds of stuff like that. I guess it's real enough that you should have somebody who's experienced it and shown you can do it before. They've got a couple guys that have done that. I think I'd like to see them early on in the season. If they're not going to go get somebody, pick somebody and designate them as somebody that's going to be in that rotation and get them a couple of closer opportunities early, just so that you can say they've done it. Give yourself a little bit of a better shot. If it's Boudoir, if he wins a spot in the bullpen early on, give him a shot to close out a game relatively early. Then the first 20, 25 games, give him a shot. Let something like that start to happen naturally. If nothing else, you don't have Santana next year. And you probably won't have Soto next year. So you might as well start training your next closer, right?
The life of a Pirates fan, spoken so eloquently there.
Oh, that's what we do, my friend. I mean, I have bigger concerns than the bullpen, though. I think there's enough redundancy and skill and raw stuff in their pitching group that I feel good about it. My biggest concern is innings, and that's going to be the big problem. I think they have to address. They got to go get a veteran, I think, for sure. And if they did that, I think I would probably be okay putting a bow on the offseason. I'd like an upgrade to Joey Bart. I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, the Bart thing is one of those things where, if he hits, you can live with it, I think. But can you count on it or expect it? I don't know. He was so good that first year when they picked him up. It really was a slog at times last year with him. So it'll be interesting. Catching, boy, if I was a betting man, I don't know how I would bet or forecast how the catching is going to work out.
I'm gonna bet that Henry figures it out. He's got too much pedigree, and he has been a good hitter for way too long for last year to be what he is. I just really mean that. I truly have a lot of faith that he's going to figure it out. His identifiable problem is so identifiable that every boob on their couch saw it too. So there's no way he's not working on it. You get what I mean? Like,
I get it. Yeah, for sure.
I truthfully think we're going to see him take a step. I do. And defensively, made a couple coaching moves here that I think they've brought in some people that are going to help to take a little bit of stress off of him as far as the game planning aspect of things go. A game planning specialist come in here to kind of take a little bit of that off of him. And I think that will help him as well. So
I think that's fair. And I think too, like, people don't realize just how much is on a catcher's plate. Like, excuse the pun. But there is so much that goes into what those guys do. That Henry probably could use a little bit more even distribution of that workload.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And I do think we should talk about Kutch a little bit here, bro.
Okay.
I do believe that there's room on this roster, if only because if I just did the 26 man right now and just talked about the players that are here and signed and gonna make up the 13 position players they bring north, I've still got Nick York, Jared Triolo, Nick Gonzalez, Garcia, and probably Jack Sawinski on my roster. You can't tell me that I can't find a spot for Andrew McCutchen. That's argument number one. Argument number two is they carried Alexander Canario all last season. I don't even think he got 200 at bats, Jim. There's room for Andrew McCutchen.
it was funny with Canario. All of a sudden he'd be in the game, and I'm like, oh yeah, they still have him. Like that's how bad it got with him at one point.
I'm just saying, I think that there's room for Andrew. I think no matter what the expectations are at the beginning of the season, it's entirely within his control to get more at bats. And he would be the first to tell you, you don't come into a job and they go, hey, you're only going to get like 110 at bats, just so you know. It's not like that. They're going to tell him, like, yeah, you're not going to be our primary DH, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you. Because of that, we're going to be able to use you in the corner outfield here and there. You know, we're going to find opportunities for you. Pinch hit, you're our number one. We're going to use you a lot. You know, and I think you can make room for that sort of thing. It gives him an opportunity to really finish this thing out. And at some point, that's what it is. You're waiting on him to make the decision. I just don't want the Pirates to make that decision for him. I don't think that's going to play well. And especially when I know you're going to have at least a player or two on this team that every Rube and every bar in Pennsylvania is going to be able to point to and say, he ain't as good as Kutch. And so well, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But what do you think if I mean, let's just get stupid here for a second. They actually sign Okamoto, and then you obviously have your domino effect with that, with the roster.
York.
What's that?
That's York.
Yeah. So do you think there's still room even if they do add?
Yep. I do. I think there's room no matter what, almost. And I don't think Ben Cherington has anything to do with it. I just don't. I think it's Kutch wants to do it. He says, I want to do it. Bob says, okay. He tells Ben. Ben gets it done. I don't think there'll be a negotiation. I think it's going to be the same thing it's been. I think it'll get done before Pirates Fest. And I don't think his role matters to them as much as it does us. You know, because he's going to think I can hit my way into getting as many at-bats as I want, just like every good player does.
Well, yeah, you always think that you can still be productive and you will
and if he is, okay. So you use O'Hearn in corner outfield and Mangum sits a lot more. I mean, like, that's the reality. And then when he gets cold, Mangum plays more, and you move Lau back in, or you move O'Hearn back in. I don't think that we have to look at things as they're so static, you know, all the time, or count at bats before April of how many we're going to be willing to give each of these guys. We have watched way too much baseball to know better than that. There's injuries, there's slumps, there's stupid like little calf pulls that keep you in the lineup, but you can't do this or that. And you know all this stuff. There's room for Kutch. There's room to carry a guy like that just doesn't do a lot.
Think there's any reason it hasn't been done yet? They just waiting to see how things shake out here, and then
I think it's fair to say he's not Ben's priority. Never has been. Never will be. And until he comes and asks for it, it won't be. And he just had a fifth child. I think he's had other things on his mind. You know? And when and if Kutch wants to play here, to me, that's what it is, waiting for him. I can't imagine anybody would let it go to Pirates Fest without having a definitive answer.
Yeah, I guess that's what, as we're talking about it, I'm thinking, it's January 1st tomorrow. I wonder how long it would take, or how long it should take to get to sort that out.
I don't think there's anything to sort.
I just mean pen to paper.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't even think it has to be official. They just have to know they're doing it by Pirates Fest. Like, they just have to say, yeah, we're bringing Kutch back.
Maybe he just wants to copy edit his name tag before
Maybe he just wants to make sure the name tag's proper first, right? But I mean, if his main bitch last year was that the team wasn't trying and they could have done better and whatnot, if all that stuff as reported is accurate, well, you are the hypocrite, sir, if you don't come back now.
Yeah.
Right. And the only difference here is that I don't think there's anybody under any delusion that Kutch is the reason this thing's going to turn around if it does. He's just a part of this.
I would certainly hope not.
But he's just a part of this. He's a part of this that might get 250, 300 at bats on the upside. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, like, I think that's perfectly acceptable to expect that. I think he should expect that. I think every other team that he would go to with hat in hand asking to play would tell him that. What team's going to sign Andrew McCutchen for a 1-year deal that has a chance at a championship, which is supposedly important, is he going to go to that he's going to be a starting DH and get 500 and some at bats promised to him on day one? It isn't out there.
No. And as a matter of fact, I think you can make the argument that, pridefully he could go look for that, but I
don't think he'd be so pridefully when he came back from the look.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was going to say is I don't think he'd like the answers.
Right.
And this is a good situation for him here. And, from a personal standpoint, love Catch, that I think it was maybe time to move on. Yes, because I was thinking in terms of having better options. But I will say there are times where, boy, if you could announce him as a pinch hitter in the 8th inning in a game where they need base runners or a hit, it would feel pretty good to have Andrew McCutchen coming up there working an at-bat and a count.
It would. And it would feel really good to have him on your bench when you have a really tough lefty in the lineup. And no matter how good Ryan O'Hearn's been against lefties, you want that guy that crushes them right in that spot. And it just gives you options, man. And like, to me, I've seen a lot of veterans come along and do these sorts of things for teams before, and there's no shame in it. He's number padding at this point, and he's having fun in Pittsburgh, and he wants a chance to win. I think he's got all of those things. This just makes too much sense to get done. Even if I can't sit here and tell you he's going to be used a lot or relied upon at all. I don't think he will be.
Yeah, and something you said there was the number padding, and I don't think you meant it as a negative, nor should it be.
No, I didn't. Not at all.
Yeah. But, that has a negative connotation to it. It's a stat padding, whatever you want to call it. But I do think at this point, those numbers are important to Kutch. I think he's aware of his situation and his legacy, and anything he can add to that, only helps him in the long run. So I don't begrudge him for that at all either.
I can't think of a better way to go out than like getting another playoff game.
Sure.
And getting a shot at redemption. He hasn't really ever had a healthy playoff. Ever.
No. As a matter of fact, when we did the big whole Kutch Bernie Williams thing, you had one guy with all this playoff success, and because the numbers are so similar, and Andrew basically has none. So I imagine those things are very important to him.
I think it'll happen too. And the only people that are going to be mad are the people that decided early on that they knew exactly how this was going to turn out, or, they'll call it a waste of money. But I'm not sure that that's a card I want to play on a team that has never spent money, finally have this offseason. And if they still want to go out and let's say they are literally throwing away $5 million. Pardon me while I don't cry. I could care less. They're wasting a few bucks here and there.
Well,
I just don't care.
they've certainly spent $5 million in much more trashy ways than Andrew McCutchen. Because God knows we could write a book on the slop that they've paid out the people that didn't do a thing.
That's true. So, hey, everybody, this is the waning moments of 2025. Another year of the Pirates Fan Forum. We did it, Jim. It wasn't easy. Your schedule was redonkulous.
Yeah. There's more coming, but we'll figure it out. And I feel like this season's going to be a little different.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun to cover. I really do. I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to doing it with you, man, because we've suffered quite a bit trying to keep our heads up through this whole time, right?
Hey, the folks that have been with us know we have gone through the tough times with them, and hopefully we get to enjoy some of the work from those days coming up here next year.
All right. So we should be kind of back to normal-ish next week, unless Ben's schedule prevents it. But I would think 8 o'clock at Thursday next week sounds normal.
I think we're good, dude.
So we should be back on schedule. We've got a temporary theme song while my friends are working on writing a brand new custom one. And we've got a temporary outro until somebody else besides Pirate Queen grows some balls and sends me one.
Yeah, come on, Yins.
See you guys later. Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys.
Let's go, Bucks.